Hello everyone, my name is Gunjan. I did my undergrad from IIT Kharagpur. This year I joined EG as a faculty. So one of my very good friend has posted this question on the common group and most of you have picked the wrong answer and quite it is quite difficult one or definitely 750 plus level question. So I'll try to break it down to explain you a bit more and what are the traps in the options as well. Let's discuss it. So amphibians population are declining in numbers worldwide. Not coincidentally, the Earth's ozone layer has been continuously depleted throughout the last 50 years. Okay. Atmospheric ozone blocks UVB, a type of ultraviolet radiation that is continuously produced by the sun and which can damage genes. Okay, but amphibians lack hair, hide or feathers to shield them. They are particularly vulnerable to this UVB radiation. In addition, their gelatinous egg-like back lack the protection of leathery or hard shell. Thus, the primary cause of declining amphibian population is the depletion of ozone layer. Right. So this is a pretty big passage. Let me break down. While just after giving a read, you can infer basically the author wants to play with the cause and effect scene, right? Because he's giving some effect of it to the amphibian population and giving the cause of the same reason, like ozone layer depletion and UVB, etc. Okay, so let me go into the depth of it. And first statement here is amphibian population are declining in numbers worldwide. Okay, this is, let's say, amphibian declining. Okay, not coincidentally, now he will give the reason like why they are declining. The Earth's ozone layer has been continuously depleted throughout the last 50 years. Okay, so let's say this is Earth, this is the ozone layer, and this is also depleting throughout the last 50 years. Okay, so what he's doing is he's giving the cause for this effect, like amphibian population declining is an effect and this is the cause of it, right? And let's proceed ahead. Atmospheric ozone blocks UVB. Okay, now he giving the reason also, like to strengthen his point, like why the depletion of ozone layer is causing the amphibian population to decline. He's giving some statements like UVB, the types of ultraviolet radiation that is continuously produced by the sun and which can damage genes. Because amphibian, and now he is again focusing from here, like why this damage to genes are affecting the amphibians and why not other reptiles and birds and mammals and all, right? So these are the additional thing, but the main thing you should always do while reading a passage is to find the conclusion of it, and the conclusion here is in the last line. Thus the primary cause of declining amphibian population is the depletion of ozone layer, right? So let's look at the question again. Each of the following, if true, would strengthen the argument except. Okay, this is an argument except question. Okay, so what we need to find out, like which is the option we need to find the option which isn't strengthening the argument, right? So let's start in the descending order. Amphibian population have declined continuously for the last 50 years. Okay, and the author here mentioned like the ozone depletion has been continuously depleted throughout the last 50 years, and here in option E it says amphibian population have declined continuously for the last 50 years. So definitely E is strengthening the argument, right? Because it is giving the causal relationship between the decline of amphibian population and the decline in ozone layer for the last 50 years, right? So D is strengthening the argument. So E. So E is not the correct answer. Okay, so let's move to D, which most of you have marked. There is a very big trap in option D. I will discuss it. So option D says the natural habitat of amphibians has not become smaller over the past century. Okay, whenever if you counter the strengthen or weaken question on, mostly in the case of cause and effect, there will be at least one option which will provide the alternate cause, right? Like the cause given by the author was the depletion of ozone layer, right? That is affecting the amphibian population. But in option D, what is the cause given? The natural habitat of amphibian has not become smaller. So the alternate cause given in option D is natural habitat. Okay, let's say this is the natural habitat. So what is the main argument? The argument is that amphibian population are declining, but there can be multiple reasons for that decline, right? What author says is this decline is due to the depletion of ozone layer, and there can be additional, or there can be alternate cause as well, like the shrinkage in the natural habitat. If the natural habitats are shrinking, that will also lead to the decline in amphibian population, right? So but here it is what option D says, the natural habitats has not become smaller. So it is basically countering the alternate cause, right? So in other sense it is strengthening the argument. Okay, so option D is again not the correct answer. Moving to option C, atmospheric ozone has been significantly depleted above all the areas in the world which amphibians population are declining. Clearly it is strengthening the argument. It is a causal relation given. Atmospheric ozone are significantly depleted in all the areas in which amphibian is. C is not correct, right? Let's move to option B. Amphibian population are declining far more rapidly than are the population of non-amphibian species whose tissue and eggs have more natural protection from UVB. Okay, so this option is also slightly strengthening the argument, right? But this is a very confusing option. I got stuck between A and B, but let me explain you like how can we eliminate it. Option B says amphibian population are declining far more rapidly, okay, than non-amphibian whose tissue and eggs are natural protection from UVB. Okay, so basically the reason given in option B is UVB is impacting the amphibian population, right? And how is UVB impacting the amphibian population is by penetrating through the ozone layer, right? So in sense it is strengthening the argument, like UVB is penetrating the ozone, that implies that the ozone has been depleting, right? Then only the UVB can penetrate and it can affect the amphibian population, right? So option B is also not correct. Let's move to option A. Of the various types of tissue radiation blocked by atmospheric ozone, UVB is the only type that can damage the gene. Okay, basically this is the correct answer. Let me tell you how. And firstly let me tell you what is the difference between the strengthening the argument except question and only the strengthen the argument question. Whenever you will counter like strengthening the argument except question, that doesn't mean the option has to be impact on the conclusion, right? It doesn't mean the option will have an impact on a conclusion. It can be a neutral statement, it can be a totally irrelevant statement, and which is the case in here, right? Let me tell you how. If let's say suppose if option A is strengthening the argument, then the negation of option A should be weakening the argument, right? So let's negate option A. Of the various types of radiation blocked by atmospheric ozone, UVB is not the only type. Let's write here not only type that can damage, not only type that can damage the gene damage, that can damage genes. Okay, so there are, what this option says now is there are other radiation also that can damage the genes. Okay, but is it really weakening the argument? Because the is it really weakening the conclusion? Because the conclusion here is a depletion of ozone layer is declining amphibian population, right? But if we say like no, there are other radiation which are causing the damage to genes, that means like there are, let's say this is UVB, let's say this another, let's say UVC, let's say this is another UVD. These are also affecting the genes. Okay, so even after negating this option, this is not weakening the argument, because to impact these all these radiation on the gene, they must penetrate the ozone layer, right? So ozone layer is getting depleted, right? So it is nowhere weakening the argument. Even after negating A, it is nowhere weakening the conclusion of the argument, right? So that's why option A doesn't have any impact on the conclusion. So this is the reason option A is correct. Right, so this is the thing you should learn. Like in argument accept question, the option doesn't need to have an impact on the conclusion. But if it was like the question asked like which of the following if true would strengthen the argument, then your option must have an impact on the conclusion, right? So these are the things you need to take care and see the traps where are laid, and find the traps and focus on the right answer, and basically eliminate the traps and move towards the last one which you find. Okay, so this is it for this. Thanks and happy learning.